are the Buckeyes?
So the Big Ten, we have 6 teams in the Big Ten. We're obviously the youngest. Everybody else, Ohio State's like 75 years old. Everybody else is over 100 years old. So we're playing catch up. The other 5 schools in the Big Ten right now are all legitimate Final Four contenders. And so the end of our season right now, these last 5 weeks playing the Big Ten, to put it in football terms, we're playing Ohio State, Clemson, Alabama over these last 5 weeks. That's what we're doing. It's been amazing to see the growth of Big Ten lacrosse. We're only 3 years old as a conference, and a lot of people are talking about our conference as the best lacrosse conference in the country now. And so we're trying to catch up and do our part.
You've got Hopkins and Maryland in that league
We do.
as well, and they're the lacrosse blue bloods. Are they a measuring stick of sorts for the program, kind of setting the standard for where you guys want to be?
Yeah, I think Hopkins has 44 national championships. Mm-hmm. So their homecoming is in the spring because that's when lacrosse season is. So it's a we're trying to catch up not only to that level of play, but also to that culture, mm-hmm. where we can compete with programs like that. But we're getting there. We've taken some significant steps this year, as has everybody else in our conference. And as our recruiting really hits full stride over the course of the next 2-3 years, as our new facilities are done over the course of the next year, we're going to be there pretty soon.
Yeah, where do you recruit? Is it more of an East Coast thing?
Not anymore. So lacrosse traditionally has been an East Coast sport, and it's really coast to coast now. The hotbeds are still in the East, the places where it's really emphasized as a lot of places where it's the number one sport in the high school. But if you're not recruiting the West Coast, if you're not recruiting Canada, if you're not recruiting the middle of the country now, you're not getting it done because it's grown so much.
What kind of challenges have you faced going from being a club sport to this point where, like you said, the Big Ten is one of the premier conferences in lacrosse?
I think part of it is just managing expectations. We're at Michigan, right, and so we want to compete and win as quickly as we possibly can. At the same time, there's a process, and we have to believe in that process, and we have to attack every day. And it's really just this year that we're starting to see the results that can come out of following our process and believing in it. We came into the Big Ten season 8-1, which is our combined win total over the previous 2 seasons. And so, we have measurables now that where our guys can see that what we're doing and the way we're doing it is working. And now we just have to keep plugging away to catch up to the guys who are ahead of us.
It seems like in the state, maybe past 10, 15, 20 years, lacrosse, it was a club sport at a lot of high schools. It's kind of grown. How big is, going with the Premier Conference thing, Michigan thing, a game like this, how big is it in terms of exposure, especially for, like Midwestern kids?
It's so important. The kids, in Baltimore, for example, have 15 Division I programs all within a few miles. Some of the top 10 programs in the country are right there. So they grow up, just like kids here get to grow up and watch high-level football, basketball, the more traditional sports. They grow up around it. And so having Division I programs here, and the only 2 men's programs in the state right now are us in Detroit, but having them here, having us bringing in programs like Maryland and Hopkins to play so kids can see the sport played at the highest level, is such an important part of the growth here. And then, it's a great example in Michigan of how fast it's grown. When I was in high school, which was a long, long time ago, at Pioneer across the street, we were the 13th program in the state to add. And that was after I graduated in '89. There's 130 some programs now in Michigan, and it continues to grow. And so, and having Division I programs like these in the state, having the competition level that we do, I think just brings more attention and helps that growth.
What has the growth, because I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, maybe like late 90s, early 2000s, it seemed like lacrosse started spreading a little bit as a varsity sport. Can you kind of describe as far as the growth spurts like during recent years?
You're right. Michigan State cut their program in '97, and that was right before the growth spurt started. Had they been in a different situation and maybe it was 5 years later and they'd seen the trend, maybe lacrosse doesn't get cut back then from there. But right about late 90s, you nailed it, is when it really started blowing up. I don't know that any of us saw it coming. We all love the sport and we all kind of see why it's happening. But if you would have told me 20 years ago that our sport would be at the point it is now, I wouldn't have believed it.
So how does someone from Ann Arbor Pioneer High School get into lacrosse?
We've had a club program here since 1940, and there was a guy named Bob DiGiovanni who coached the men's program off and on for 33 years before I took over. I grew up with his sons. He was doing it part-time. He was also an engineering professor here. and he had played at Cornell. But I grew up with his son, so I had a stick in my hand in high school. We tried to get it going. I was a traditional athlete, football and basketball, the sports that were available back then, but always wanted to play lacrosse, and it was part of my college decision is to look for opportunities to get into the game.
After losing perhaps the most, important player in program history from last year, Kyle Jackson, and several other important pieces, did you maybe anticipate this being the year of the turnaround, or did you see it more as a rebuilding type of year heading into the season?
I'm actually not surprised by what we've been able to accomplish so far this year. I think, sometimes when you lose a great player, Kyle is the best player we've had in the program to date. But sometimes when you lose a great player, it allows everybody else to step up as well. And we've seen a lot of that, especially offensively this year, where we miss him. We miss the things he can do, no question. But we're also playing a little bit more together than we were before.
Is that something you maybe sat down with Brent and Ian before the season and sort of told them, had the conversation of, we need you guys to step up and fill that role heading into this year?
We knew we wouldn't be able to fill that role. Brent has been an incredibly pleasant surprise. We knew the potential he had, but for him to come on as fast as he has been a huge help to our program. He's a very different game than Kyle, even though he's filling his position. But that's been, it was more about those guys not taking everything on themselves and allowing the offense to work. And I think when you have a great player, especially as a young program and you're not as deep talent-wise, you lean really heavily on your superstars. And now we don't have to do that as much anymore.
Do you have a core group of fans who obviously will get in the big house there for you guys that early in the day?
It's funny because, we've been it's an honor to have been able to do what we've done this first 6 years. We can't wait for our facilities. I'm still in the trailer in the corner of the lot over there. So we can't wait for the new facilities, but it's been an honor to be able to play in Michigan Stadium for our first 6 years. I think it shows something about the commitment that Michigan has made to lacrosse to allow us to do that. We practice there every day. I'm going over there in a few minutes. But it's also, we can draw 2,000-3,000 people and the crickets are chirping over there. So we do have a core group and we do draw pretty well. We're in the 1,000 to 2,000 range every game, more if the weather's nice. But yeah, it's going to be, for us, playing in a more intimate environment where it always feels full is going to be a nice change.
What is the advantage of piggybacking with the spring game?
Exposure.
You'll
so
get more people there.
We'll get more people, and we've done this in the past, but it's always been after the game. And then,
Right.
people, and the weather hasn't been good the 2 years that we've done it, so people are filtering out. It's a long day by that point. Ohio State does it this way, and they, last year, for example, down in Ohio, they got 100,000 people at their spring game. It was a beautiful day. By halftime of our game, there were 30,000 people watching a lacrosse game. By the end of our game, we were playing in front of 70,000 people. And that doesn't happen in lacrosse. So it's great, 65,000 of those people didn't know a whole lot about lacrosse, but they got to see it. So I think exposure is such an important part of this. And I'd be remiss if I didn't say how thankful we are to the department, but the football staff more than anybody to include us in this way.
Is the rivalry with Ohio State as heated as it is with football?
We have to do our part. I think it will get heated as we get more competitive, but yeah, it's heated. There's no love lost. Even as we were getting going, they bring a lot of that, right? They kind of taught our guys early about, this is what this rivalry is like. So let's go. And I think, here for all the other sports that aren't football here, we have Michigan State as well. We don't in lacrosse. So this is our rival. And we feel it. So yeah, this is a big week.
And Penn State's coming up after.
We have Hopkins the following weekend at Hopkins, and then we have Penn State. And all of these teams have been number one at some point in the season. They're all in the top 10. Yeah, this conference is absolutely loaded this year. Yeah.
You played Penn. You beat Penn, right?
We beat Penn. Yep, that was a big win for us. First time we beat a ranked opponent. We'd come close before, so got that done. We hit a lot of milestones this year. Right, and that's something we're trying to keep the guys focused on. Is as much as we are desperate to win our next game, as much as we want to move this program forward in the Big Ten, you want them focused as well on how much we have accomplished this year, not just in our record and not just in the teams we have beaten to this point, but in how much we've grown in our leadership and how we approach practice every day and what we're doing off the field. Those are all signs of growth that we've made this year, and whatever happens these next 3 weeks, I'm pretty proud of the foundation this group has laid.
Those early years of recruiting, did you have to commit, did people still think you were a club team? I mean, did you have to say, hey, no, we're.
No, they knew. We got so much attention in the lacrosse world for
Mhm.
adding, because no big football school had added men's lacrosse in 30 years. Notre Dame had been the last. So we got a lot of attention. It took us a while to get up to speed and catch up in the level that we were recruiting, right?
Mm-hmm.
So our elite classes are coming over the next few years. And obviously that'll make a huge difference since we're playing against those guys every week.
Do you climb trees and go go-karting with recruits?
I do whatever I have to do. Yeah, I just don't get as much attention for doing it.
You haven't done a sleepover though, right?
I have not done a sleepover, but the idea is now implanted in my brain. Yeah.
That win against Penn, is it like a point of reflection of the last 6 years for you guys?
You know, I think when you're coaching, it's as much a relief as anything else, because it's been kind of a monkey on our back that we hadn't gotten that kind of win. So, you know, we celebrated our guys. There's nothing better as a coach than seeing your guys celebrate a goal attained that they've worked really hard for. So that was wonderful. But at the same time, you know, all of us just felt like, all right, we've checked that box now. Let's move on and do the next thing. And that really has to be the way we do it. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Really appreciate it.